Season 2. I couldn't be more excited. Season 2 of Justice League Revisited. I'm one of your hosts, James Enstall of Geek to Me Radio, bringing the fandom side of this. My wonderful co-host right there on the other side of the Zoom screen. I'm waving at her right now for those of you who are listening. We have the voice of Wonder Woman, Susan Eisenberg. How are you?
I'm well, and I have a really big smile on my face because you always give me such a warm, welcome and a nice intro. I like the intros. I got to be honest. It almost feels like, if we had the applause button, I feel like I'm running to the stage for like making my entrance, if you will. So thank you. It's great to see you. And I'm thrilled and delighted that we are doing our second season. And this episode is a brilliant way to start it, if I may say so. I know you're going to explain what we're going to be doing today. So without further ado, I'll let you get into it.
Yes. So one of the things we've been asked by many of you who listen, when will you do a Kevin tribute? We addressed in the very first episode of the first season that, it's going to be hard because we know we don't have Kevin going forward with this show. Doing the show has always been a nice way to remember him. And every single person we've had on, from the writers to the actors to the musicians to the art people, have said something about Kevin, how much they enjoyed working with him, what a professional he was, how great a human being he was. So we thought we'd go ahead and open season 2 with a Kevin tribute. Tribute to Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, just as Susan is the voice of Wonder Woman. He's the voice, and I still hear in my head, I just picked up a new Batman comic, and as I'm reading it, there's Kevin's voice talking to me, and I think there's no better legacy than that. Both the kindness he showed to everyone he came in contact with, fan or coworker, but also to have that legacy, 3 decades of voicing this iconic character who so many people are portrayed on screen and off in animation. But I don't think Adam West is the only one who I could think of comes close to holding that place in the zeitgeist as Batman.
Yeah, he's the definitive one. I mean, for us, when I say us, I mean the Justice League members, he was our Batman. He was certainly mine as the only Batman I've ever worked with, and whether it was the series or the movies, he was my one and only. And I think for most of the cast, would say the same thing. And he was a star before he had done, you say the voice of Batman, like I'm the voice of Wonder Woman, but, he had the Batman, the animated series, which was so powerful and groundbreaking and iconic. He had that all under his utility belt before we even did the Justice League. And he was the star. It was called Batman the Animated Series, for F's sake. So he really loomed large, and I can see a big picture of him right now as Batman. He loomed large, and he was just gracious and funny and talented, and he knew that there was a legacy attached to him, and he was so honored by it and grateful for it. And man, did he love his fans. He loved his fans. And I remember writing after his death that I hope the fans knew it and felt it, because he never gave less than 200%. And whether that was in the booth or whether that was at a Comic-Con, that he showed up. And James and I, like he said, we wanted to do a tribute, and we felt this is the time. We're going to start our second season, and let us start with throwing some big love Kevin's way, because we all miss him, and we think about him all the time, and the fans miss him. I hear from the fans all the time how much they miss him. So this is our tribute show to Kevin Conroy, and we have a few people along for this ride, and I'll let James tell you who they're going to be.
Yeah, and just to speak to your point again about how incredible he was, you think of the lines of people at his Comic-Con. He saw tens of thousands of people every year, and I was struck by the fact that he recognized me. He would see me come up, and he had that little spark of recognition. He'd go, "Radio, yep. It's Radio James." I was like, my gosh, what a memory! That's
great.
Just such an amazing human being that out of tens of thousands of people, he recognized me and knew me. And I just want to mention that because it meant so very much to me when someone like him knows my name. That was an incredible feeling. Speaking of names, this is a full house. There's barely room in Carl Lumbly's garage to hold us all. Let's go over who we've got. We've got Superman himself, George Newbern. We have Hawkgirl, Maria Canals-Barrera. We've got our Emerald Gladiator, Green Lantern, Phil LaMarr. We have Carl Lumbly, the Martian Manhunter, is with us. And of course, not just a co-host, but as a guest, because we need Wonder Woman in this mix, we have Susan Eisenberg, the voice of Wonder Woman. And of course, as the icing on our lovely Justice League frosted cake, gluten-free, of course, Dan Riba also joining us. We're waiting to see. We hope Michael Rosenbaum, because he wanted to do this. His schedule's a little iffy right now, so hopefully he'll pop in during the show. But if not, he did send us something. We'll play that at the end. This is going to be so much fun. I'm so glad all of you had the time to join the show today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
So I was going over some stats, and normally it's something we do in the intro, but I love these stats for Kevin. Kevin Conroy made his debut as the voice of Batman and Bruce Wayne on September 5th, 1992, in an episode called The Cat and the Claw on the Kids WB. He will have his final appearance as Batman later this year, July 16th, 2024, in Crisis and Infinite Earths Part 3, alongside Mark Hamill's The Joker, which will be brilliant. That should be something everyone tries to watch. Overall, Kevin voiced Batman and Bruce, and I'm counting just the ones where he voiced those two characters, 268 episodes, 15 movies, 18 video games, 4 miscellaneous projects, for a total of voicing that character 305 times, including once in live action, which was Kevin's. His eyes would light up anytime you'd ask him about playing Bruce Wayne Batman in live action on the Batwoman TV show for their crossover. So that's a legacy. That's amazing.
I just got chills when you said the live action one, because I remember him doing that, as I'm sure everyone on the panel does. And I remember texting him and being so overjoyed for him, because it meant the world to him to be able to do that. At long last, he was so afraid he was going to age out of the opportunity. And when he was able to do it, he was so elated to be a part of that and have that be part of his legacy, which he so rightly deserved to have that be part of his legacy.
I know, Phil, you gave a very lovely speech at Kevin's memorial. When you were trying to prep that speech, what was going through your head? Were you thinking about trying to do it just were you trying to do your experiences? Talk a little bit about your mindset when you were making your tribute for Kevin.
Mostly I was just rooting into Kevin energy. You know, it's like, don't go up there and be sad, you know, because although, you know, losing somebody like Kevin does make us sad, but our memories of Kevin are great, warm, you know. And so I was like, no, make sure that your eulogy speech taps into that energy. Yeah.
And I loved your shirt, by the way, Phil. For those listening, Phil is wearing the most beautiful Justice League shirt.
Oh, cool.
And it is just adorable.
I want one of those.
I know, so do I. But you know what? Of course, Phil has a Justice League. Of course he has one, right? That's fair.
I was curious. Obviously, you all got to work with him. There are several episodes, as Susan and I are breaking down this series, that were like, gosh, I wish I had Kevin for this one, or wouldn't it be great because he'd have so much to say about certain episodes, whether it's the Dr. Destiny episode or the epilogue that ended, you know, the bridge between seasons 2 and 3. If you could go around, I'll ask each one of you individually, if you had a favorite time in the booth, something that clicked with you, or maybe just a memory of working with Kevin on this series. We'll start with Carl.
I had so many wonderful memories of working with Kevin, and I think there was one episode, and I'm not good with this. As each year goes by, I get worse.
You're not alone, Carl.
Yes, but it had to do with this sort of pettiness between, and no offense intended, but between Batman and Superman. A kind of, a sort of vulnerability that Batman had in the face of Superman's obvious superiority in so many ways. Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead. Keep going. Yeah.
Unaided flight. I think we all know what I'm talking about.
Right, we all do.
It was all so much there in the voice. And I think that's one of the things that I remembered so much about Kevin was the range of things he could do with his voice. And even inside this sort of gruff, imperious kind of nature of Batman, there was such vulnerability in that exchange. And I remember thinking that's craft. And it's also the individual. That was who he was. It's not related exactly to Justice League, but I did listen to a couple of those cameos that he did for young people, where he encouraged them, where he would hear their stories and then be so inspirational and just kind of like brush aside what you would think of as conventional wisdom and just go right to the heart of the issue and, tell people, don't bother with that. Don't bother with that. Go believe, trust, and fully experience the life you have right now. And I thought, who would better be able to express that than someone who had perhaps a number placed on his days on the planet. So what I remember about him, and I actually wrote it down, was something that I thought I would take into my own life, which is finish strong. That, when there's a tendency, I think, in our industry to think of, you reach a certain age and you're in decline. But I think if in my own mind I take anything away from Kevin, it's finish strong, no matter what the challenges. Those aren't what you need to lead with. People don't even know. Finish strong.
Yeah.
I love that.
We'll go right next door to George.
There's so many memories, as Carl said. And I kind of think of my relationship with Kevin in 3 acts. And the first act was when we were just actors before Kevin was even doing Batman. I knew him mostly from auditions, and we would bump up against, we'd be together at a network test sometimes for the same part, sometimes for different parts. But even then, I just remember being impressed. This guy was on a soap opera, but then he also did all these, like, he went to, was it Juilliard? I believe.
Juilliard.
This guy's hilarious. I love this guy. And we had a couple of scenes to do for network. And so then I saw him doing that. And then the middle act was all of Justice League and being in a booth with Kevin. And the takeaway from that was obviously more like a brotherly, sort of almost sibling, like you say, there was a juvenile, fun, joyous sort of part of that with Kevin. And he, always was ready to get down to business, but it took a minute because he didn't want to get down to business as much as he wanted to play, like all of us, which I respect highly.
Yes.
So there's no specific episode I would single out that stands out to me, other than the experience in the booth with him and all of you, especially, was just so fun and such a joy and rare that we don't get to do that much anymore. And then I'd say the third act would be the longer act even is seeing Kevin at all these Comic-Cons and his interaction with fans. And that was a whole nother thing. And knowing that Kevin was not just a quote unquote voice actor or whatever, he was a sort of a Renaissance man, right? He was a cabinet, he was a carpenter and he renovated houses and had incredible taste and aesthetic taste and, just very successful at that. And then a great actor and then just lovely person to be around. And I don't know, since the pandemic, and we keep saying that, but being on Zoom actually makes me break out in hives a little bit because I feel like, oh my God, put my mask on. But this is poignant in the sense that it reminds me of how great it was being in the room with Kevin and all of you, and the great spirit he had. So I guess it was more general than specific, but whatever.
No,
that's okay.
Yeah,
that's great.
And we'll pop down to Maria.
Well, what I remember most is how surprised and tickled I would get when I would see how childlike he could be, because he's so cool, he's so mature. And he wasn't this people pleaser or desperate actor that wants to constantly entertain people. He was confident and cool. And then I'd heard he'd been Batman for so many years, more than any of us had voiced our characters. And he had such a big following. And he seemed so good when he would voice Batman. There were so many layers to him. He was authoritative and strong, but then you would see vulnerability, and you would see, I mean, I could see why he was so successful as Batman. And I thought he was very nice and polite, and I kind of like respected him as more of a cool cat. But then he would have these moments where he was like a kid, and it would delight me when he would go into Am I Blue, was, of course, not only my favorite, but so many fan favorite, when he would just sing, when he would flirt with Andrea. And that comes from confidence, that same confidence that made him a cool cat, laid back, knows what he's got. But he didn't take it for granted, and he didn't take himself seriously. He took his work seriously, but he would have fun. He would be silly. He would climb on the desk.
Yeah.
Or, when he would talk to his fans. Yeah. And that would just delight me, because I would see these, what I think are like opposites, and that you can be both things. And to me, he was both things. And then he was also very generous and kind in that, I mean, he had us all over his house in New York when we were in town for the New York Comic Con, and made us dinner. And that was so hospitable and kind of him. And he was just a very interesting, to me, mysterious kind of person, because he looked very serious at times. But then he could be like a little playful kid, and it was delightful to see. And he loved the attention, and he wasn't apologetic about it. Mm-hmm. He was like enjoying it, making me feel free to enjoy it. This silly, wonderful career that we have.
Yeah.
And he would be this kid in front of the fans, and we would all, of course, marvel at the long lines at all the Comic Cons to see Kevin. And it was so
enviously
layered.
marvel.
Yes, enviously marvel.
Yes. And it's because he had all those things. So he kind of was an example to me just by being who he was. And I didn't know him that well. I knew him more professionally than personally. But I really, because we notice things in people. And I noticed how he unapologetically embraced all of his success, the amazing amounts of money he made. He wasn't like, oh, well, I don't know if I deserve it all. He was like, that's right. It's wonderful. I make tons of money. and he accepted it without faking modesty. Yeah, I've earned this, and I love it, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm generous with my fans, and I give them whatever they ask me to give them. I'll sing. He was a great guy and deserves all the love that he's still getting. And I'm glad that we're honoring him today, because there was no Batman like our Batman.
No way.
No.
And Phil, of everyone on the panel, with maybe the exception of Dan, you're the comic book authority on the panel here. Did you have because I know you've talked about some of those moments in the past where Dwayne McDuffie wrote a script and you'd look up and make eye contact with him when you're reading the script. Did you have any of those moments where you were vicariously excited about some of Batman stuff he got to say in the show? Did you have a favorite memory of a certain working time with him, or something outside the booth that you really cherish as a memory?
Well, actually, both. Because, growing up as a comic book fan, Batman was my favorite hero. And, had the old comic books. I would watch the 60s TV series, but that was like sort of, the comedy version of Batman.
For those not watching, he put that in quotation marks. The comedy version.
And so it's interesting because to me, Kevin's performance of Batman brought the real original hero to life. Like, he sounds like I felt Batman. And that was wonderful to be in the booth with him. I mean, every episode was great because he was a great person to work with. Mm-hmm. It didn't have anything to do with the character. It was just, this is a good coworker, you know? But there was one moment outside of Booth that taps into both my fandom and my feeling of friendship with Kevin and the Batmanness. Because prior to Batman the Animated Series, I felt like the thing that made Batman cool instead of campy was Neil Adams' artwork in the 70s. You know, Neil Adams, the comic book artist. Actually, I've got this John Stewart drawing up there is a Neil Adams. Well, nobody can see. But one time at a convention, and being at a convention with Kevin was always inspirational. Like you were talking about, Maria.
Yeah.
It was like, this is how we should all be with our fans.
Yeah.
Although I still got to come up with a way to come to the table the way Kevin used to.
Yeah, right.
Like, you know, whenever he would start at a con, he'd come to the table, stand on his chair and go, I am the night. I am vengeance. Yes. I am Batman. And you'd hear the entire convention.
Every single time. Every single time.
Basically, those people paid a ticket and didn't just get an autograph. They got a show.
Right.
But one time I was at a con and Kevin was there and Neil Adams was there. And as a nerdy fanboy, I said, I got to introduce them. So I connected the two coolest Batman geniuses.
That's incredible. Wow.
I should be wearing a cowl.
So Phil's the real hero here. Let's be honest. That's my
clearly.
Gosh.
Clearly.
Well, no. If it's a fanboy hero, then that's just a Firo.
And a new word has been coined. Susan, if you don't mind, I did not know this story. You and I were talking previously before we started recording, just kind of go over some stuff, what we kind of wanted this to be. I did not know Kevin took you out to dinner right after you were cast and you had dinner with him.
He did.
If you could relate that story, do you feel comfortable doing so?
Yeah. I mean, it was just an extraordinary gesture because I had just been cast and he got in touch with me and he said, I'd love to take you out for dinner. Oh, and we went out to dinner and it was a lovely evening. And, you know, he told me a little about his life and about the work and about what to expect and how much fun it's going to be and how much he was looking forward to it. I think some of that was true and some of it wasn't because I think I don't know how thrilled he was to be getting 6 other people to have to work alongside. You know, I mean, to go from Batman the Animated Series to the Justice League, I think was a huge adjustment, you know, in terms of his screen time. It was very much like Batman, you know, how Batman was never part of the group. I think, you know, Kevin had he would joke about, I got to, you know, share my screen time with these fools. You know, he was delightful in that way. And I thought I always remembered how generous he was to do that for me. I was, you know, I had done some animated shows, but only as a guest star. I'd never had a lead. And, you know, perhaps he knew that. And he just made me feel so welcome to the whole project. And, you know, that never went away. And, you know, when we were doing the podcast the first season, James and I would be asked all the time, are you going to do something for Kevin? And we talked about it. We knew we would, but we didn't want to start the first season, the podcast, with a tribute to Kevin. But going in, we are finished with our first season now. And this tribute will be the opener for our second season. And, you know, it just felt absolutely right to do this. You know, just a few things I'll say about him. Maria talked about the Am I Blue? And, you know, he would just break into that song at any opportunity, even if there wasn't an opportunity, he'd break into that song. And I'll never forget him doing that once at a con. We were on a panel together and he just looked over at me after he did it. And it was like a little boy just saying, I did good, right? I did good. And it was just such a sweet, I actually Dan Slott actually took a photo of us right after it, and I've posted it a million times with me just with my hands on his cheek, just loving him in that moment. And I was so grateful to Dan for capturing it. But, you know, he was this handsome ham, and he loved to tell stories, and he told us stories, and we would all sit there riveted at his experiences, whether it was after 9/11 or his family stories. He had a very poignant childhood, not an easy childhood, a lot of challenges. And he was the head of his family, and he took that very seriously. And he loved talking about Juilliard and his experiences doing Shakespeare. And I, of course, am a huge soap fan. And so he was on one of my soaps, Another World. And I remember like cornering him at one of the Comic-Cons in the green room and saying, Kevin, you were in Another World? And I mean, beyond handsome, beyond. I mean, talk about leading man looks. He was just so. But you know, I think in the actual booth with him, I loved the Wonderbat moments. You know, I'm not shy about loving Wonderbat, and being able to flirt and having my voice with his voice for whatever that is. It just always felt magical to be able to have those moments with him that felt different than, you know, get down. You know, it was like it was cute and flirty, and it didn't have anything to do with the Watchtower. So I loved it. I just loved it. So I'm so glad we're doing this. And I said it earlier, but I so appreciate that you all came together to join us to do it, because you know, it's us, you guys. It's the Justice League. And I love us.
I love us.
I love us. I really do.
And since you brought up Wonderbat, we've got Dan Riba, the guy who is mostly responsible for giving us Wonderbat. Dan, same question. I mean, do you have a favorite memory of working with Kevin alongside? You're the only one who got to boss him around of all the group here.
No, I did not. But there are so many memories, so it's hard to say just one. But in terms of like a show memory, like a recording memory, I think Epilogue was one of those things that sort of encapsulated everything that he had done as Batman, because when he got Batman Beyond, it was sort of like kind of a demotion in a way for him to suddenly like, oh God, we want a younger Batman. Now you're the old guy. And, you know, we always wanted him to be a part of it. So he wasn't, you know, he had to be the old Batman. We weren't going to recast that he is Batman. And that was sort of like what made the show real for us. But as an actor, you know, he had to take the mentor role as opposed to the lead. And it was a little awkward initially, but he embraced it, just like embracing the idea of being, you know, in the Justice League with everybody. You know, he became the mentor, a real mentor to Will Friedle and the crew. And he was like, he was there sort of the unifying, the glue of that show that made it what it was. And so when we did this episode and it took place in the future, it was like, wow, this is weird. But then we got to go do the flashback. So he got to be young Batman again. And the part of the thing that really kind of connected to me was that as a gag, we're sort of like, this was supposed to be a loop of Batman's entire career, like, you know, and his old age. And as Terry runs off, we were actually echoing the shots from our first episode. And there is the very first line that Kevin ever spoke in a Batman show. Wasn't as Batman, but he was the blimp pilot or the helicopter pilot that sees that sees Man-Bat, and it's like, you know, what's that blip? You know, what's that? You know, and we gave him that line. Wow. So when he saw the script, he started to laugh because he knew exactly what we were doing. He had remembered his very first line on his very first Batman show, and it gave me like chills to know that, you know, yes, this meant that much to him that he actually remembered his very first line, because we thought it was going to be our last episode of Justice League. We didn't think we were coming back. And so that was our, you know, the swan song was going to be on Batman because it started with him, so it should end on him. And we actually gave him the last line, and he, you know, he embraced it.
That's so cool.
I know all of you were at New York Comic Con together. We were missing Michael at that one for that. What was it, 2015, if I remember correctly?
I think
14?
so. Yeah, or
15
or 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have been wanting, where's our Justice League reunion? When are we going to get a Justice League? We got that mini little one with George and Susan and Kevin. We got Justice League versus Fatal Five.
Right.
But we never got, everyone was hoping that we'd finally get one. And we talked about this on Twitter a while ago, and a lot of people are of the mindset that we understand Batman's bigger than any one person, but it'd be very hard to do. And the fans aren't even sure they want a Justice League without, like Maria said, our Batman. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming you guys pretty much feel the same, or was there, any thought of, because obviously we've got some other really good Batmans out there. Jensen Ackles, Bruce Green would have done it, Dietrich Bader, and that's not to take anything away from their performances. Right. But for me, Kevin will always be Batman.
Yeah.
Any of you have thoughts about that?
I think that'd be hard to do in terms of an expansive reunion. Yeah, without Kevin would be weird. But I guess we could do little mini one-offs, mini pairings. But a big one is I don't know how you do that.
I remember when I came to Justice League, I, had done primarily theater before I had gotten into television and film. And so I thought of it as a company. And so I always felt like, the way in certain regional theaters, there's an actor who has been there since the beginning, seen it all, and does serve as the mentor and the glue and the one people turn to when something goes crazy in rehearsal, and the one you can count on to put things in perspective. Oh, this is nothing. 18 years ago I saw and then, right. Some amazing story. And so I just remember feeling just honored to be a part of this company of actors, every single one. And in my mind, I guess I did think of Kevin as our venerable, honored member. And so it would have to have an asterisk for me, like when dated in an Olympic record, to have a Justice League reunion. And I was about to say without Kevin, but in many ways, he's as much here, and that spirit is here. So maybe there's a sense in which we could be reunited in his spirit. That would be the only way I would say it, but you still need the asterisk in my mind. Yeah. I only went to one Comic-Con, the New York Comic-Con. Right. And
we'll change that in the future, Carl.
Come on, Carl. Let's go. Come on, Carl.
But that's where I witnessed that amazing phenomenon, the lines and the energy it takes to give that much of yourself to that volume of it just feels like he must have had so much more that we couldn't even imagine, because he just seemed to generate him, and it seemed to create this flow between he and those fans, and it spilled over. I mean, it just made for a beautiful, enthusiastic fest. It was like Carafesta or Carnival or something where you would not have been surprised to see people rip off their clothes and start dancing in line.
And the first one would have been Kevin.
Exactly.
And I posted a photo of him once in the green room. I walked into the green room, and he was by himself in this massive room, and he was just sitting on a chair at this table. And I walked in. I was about to say, "Hey, Kev," and then I just thought, "Nah, don't." It felt like walking into a temple or a chapel, right? And you just didn't want to disturb somebody. And so I took a photo, because that's the age we're living in. And and it was breathtaking, though, because then he would give all that energy to his fans, and then he would come in and just be quiet, and he was sitting by himself and just probably recharging. and meditating and maybe looking at his phone and catching up on messages, but more likely he was meditating and just thinking his thoughts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, interacting with the fans the way Kevin would, that would be like if you did a musical and after a number, you jumped off the stage and went around to everyone in the audience so they could clap at you individually.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That takes a lot of energy.
A lot of energy.
Tremendous.
Energy.
I was at GalaxyCon in, I believe it was Richmond, and Kevin was there with Diane Pershing and John Glover, and he was on a panel, and I'd never heard this story before, so some of you may have heard it, some of the listeners might not, and I love this story because I can picture Kevin's face. He obviously is getting, autographs and signatures he's putting out. He's taking in cash. He said someone brought him 2 of these really gorgeous, high-polished stainless steel they look like batarangs. And he said they were machine tooled. This guy gave them to him. So I made these specifically for you. Kevin thought he just wanted to show them to him. He's like, no, Mr. Conroy, these are for you. So Kevin goes, these are beautiful. Thank you. So, it was the last day of the con. He gets all of his stuff together, puts them in his bag. He goes through the airport to board his flight.
Security.
TSA stops him and says, sir, they wave him over. You need to come over here. And he's like, oh my gosh, what? They open up Kevin's bag, and there, amongst lumps and lumps and lumps of cash, are these 2 stainless steel weapons. And they're like, could you explain this? And just on a reflex, Kevin goes, no, you don't understand. I'm Batman.
Yeah.
So I can imagine the TSA.
I heard him tell that story. Yeah, I heard that.
Let me clear things up. I'm Batman.
Right.
I'm Batman. Let's go.
But just, you and I would be like, oh, yeah, he's Batman. But I'm sure the poor TSA people are like, sure, buddy, why don't you come over here with us? But that's, I absolutely love that story.
It's
good.
Brilliant.
As for the reunion thing, I think everyone has heard me ad nauseum talk about the reunion stuff. So I'm just going to say this. I think, we as a cast always wanted to do one. The fans always wanted us to do one. The fact that it never happened leaves me sad and somewhat angry, because we were there to do it for how many years? And, I never say we can't do it. I would never say that, but like Carl said, it would have to be under certain circumstances, and, Kevin would have to be there in some way.
Yeah.
But, it's a coulda, woulda, shoulda. I mean, it breaks my heart that when we were all here together and we were so vocal about it, and the fans have been so vocal. I like Carl said, we're a company, and I think that there is some magic to our chemistry. And I think that's why we're here all these years later and talking about the show, because when you combine us and the writing and the directing, the producing, the music, all of it together, all those elements that make up the Justice League, it's a classic. And, a shame not to have revisited that over the years, which is why James and I decided to do the podcast, because, we wanted to revisit the magic. So, I don't have any sway, obviously. If I did, we would have done a reunion 18 years ago. But, I guess the powers that be will do what they're going to do. But, I just so appreciate all of us. And when I say us, I mean the writers, directors, the musicians, the all of it, the art director, all of it, because that's what made the show what it is. That's why we're all here talking about it still.
So true.
And I want to open this up. If anyone has any, as we're kind of getting towards the end, I don't want to keep any of you too long. Anyone want to give any last words about Kevin? I don't want to say final thoughts, but is there anything any of you would like to add at all?
I would just say it's just like anyone who passes in your life that has a special place in your memory. It's like he's not gone. I know he's gone, but it doesn't feel like he's gone. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Still go to these cons, and I still see you guys, and you're still doing little one-offs here and there, but I feel like he's still present in so many ways, and maybe that's the beauty of our lives, that you hope that you live on, even if you're not here, that you live in people's memories and their anecdotes and their memories that's so connected to people's childhoods and or adulthoods or whatever. But, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, all these characters are iconic people, and they're sort of interwoven into who Kevin was in my memory. And he's still here with us. As long as we continue to do these things and gather, I feel like he's here. So lovely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think for me, I remember I always felt a little funny about the fact that I'd never went to performing arts school, and I was in awe of Juilliard and that training. And I remember in conversation with him once, I expressed that, and I said, I only know one rule of acting from improvisation, and that's that no matter what is said to you in an improvisational setting, the answer is never no. It's always yes and. And I said, but that's all I know. And Kevin said, that's key. That's all you need to know. And I think the way he lived, worked, and operated, especially after I learned that he had challenges with his health, and that it was never no. It was always yes. And I reference again some of those cameos that, even thinking about it, it just makes me weep, because he presented to people such possibility, encouragement, inspiration, in putting his own situation aside and giving what he had to give. He was always yes and so I think he validated something that I thought was kind of unimportant, and by him saying it was key, I now claim it as such.
And I think that's such a, I think one of the things about Kevin is he loved his life. He loved his life. He loved his fans. He loved his husband, Vaughn. He loved his work. He loved his friends, his homes that were magnificent. He had a wonderful life, and he loved it. And he never, ever, ever took it for granted. I mean, that's why, he would stay at that table at that con until the last person got to say hello to him. It's not like he needed the money. He just, not that the money was, he wasn't going to take it, but at the same time, that's not what drove him. He would have stayed till the end of that line if it were free. He just, like Carl said, he said yes. He said yes to staying till he met every person, and he stayed here. The last time I texted with him, he was so hopeful that he was going to be okay. And again, yes to life. And, it makes me happy that he enjoyed his life as much as he did. And just, it was like the singing. He just, he was so quick with a song, because, he was always, his song takes over when, your emotions get so high that's like the only place it can go is into song. That's Kevin, which is why he broke into song, like at any moment he could. He just,
One of the things that I'm going to remember always is that the power that passion and talent can leave behind. He apparently was Juilliard trained, but he was grateful for these opportunities that opened up where he became the voice of Batman, and he embraced that and gave all that passion to that gift and became the best one.
Yes.
And that's a great example for, I think, a lot of actors, but that's what I take personally, is that, yes, his life was not as long as it should be, but what a permanent gift he left behind in being so excellent at his work that no one thinks of Batman without him. And that will be that way forever.
Yeah.
And that's what I think about. Wow, this one life, this one actor, this one attitude towards a gift that he embraced with that childlike passion, even having complications in his life, like many of us do, and he had more than he deserved. And And what a wonderful thing. What a wonderful thing that we got to work with such excellence and that he leaves such excellence behind. And at all the cons that we've been to since his passing, I hear at least 10, 20 times people lamenting his passing and how they tell me how much he meant to them. Oh and God. Again, it touches me about, wow, the difference that we can make just by loving, giving our all, and being grateful for what we have. The difference that we can make in this world and with each other, and just like entertainment, it's just really a powerful thing. So I'm glad that he got to do that. And that we got to do it with him, and we get to watch it still happen.
We got to be in the room with him, which is what a gift that was, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a pretty incredible level of talent when you can get people who take in your work to feel you in their heart the same way that your friends do.
Right.
You know?
That's true. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and it's interesting because part of, what I credit Kevin with is, bringing the humanity to Batman, which for me as a fanboy was the appeal. Batman was the non-super hero. I could be a Batman. I don't have laser vision. But not only, do I credit him for, like I said before, bringing the character back to its heart and its coolness, but I also credit Kevin with the term voice acting. Because back in the 90s, when he started Batman the Animated Series, that was not what anybody used. And going from an on-camera career into cartoons,
right? Yeah,
was a step down back then. But I feel like that show, Dan, you guys, the Batman the Animated Series, you put animation as an art form.
Yes, 100%.
And which now people consider it, but back then, I mean, I remember I worked on a cartoon back in the 80s, and you could tell the people who made it did not like it. Or did not like it, but didn't care. It's like, let's get our 23 minutes on so we can sell the toys.
Yeah.
But, you guys on Batman the Animated Series and what Kevin brought to the character took it so much. I mean, I don't know if I've told you guys this story about being at a con one time and meeting a Spanish guy who was the Spanish voice of Batman.
See?
He dubbed the Justice League. Okay. But then when I talked to him, he's like, he mentioned that he also dubbed the live action movies. So his voice came out of Christian Bale too.
Really?
And I remember thinking, it's like, oh man, they should be doing that in the U.S. with Kevin. If his voice came out of Ben Affleck's face, Ben Affleck would have won an Oscar.
All right.
Oh, man. True.
Dan, was there anything you wanted to add?
Only that when I first met Kevin the first time at a record and I saw him, I thought, oh, my gosh, this guy is Bruce Wayne. This guy he's so handsome and oh, my gosh, he was just so fit. And he just he's Batman. And then we recorded and everything, as time passed, it's like, yeah, this is a guy who could play him. I didn't realize how much service he gave to other people, how much of his life he devoted to others. The story about the 9/11 stuff, but even before that, I didn't even realize he was like, what was it, a Big Brother, where he was like mentoring children, where he was hanging out with kids, and then he actually dressed as Batman for them, which was such a wonderful story.
Can you imagine having Kevin walk in dressed in costume?
I know he did. Yeah, can you? He also did like bike rides, like charity bike rides from here to San Francisco. And he wasn't in the greatest health at that time, and we were all concerned. But he was like, yes, and he has to do this. He has to help other people. And so when I'd see him at the conventions, it was always sort of, it always, the way that he approached it was to service the fans, to give them, the comfort and whatever it is that they needed, that they wanted. And those cameos just make me cry. I met people at conventions that ordered them, and it really did. They really did change their lives. So
it's also the comic, the strip he did.
Oh my gosh,
he wrote
that too.
You talk about helping people.
I don't know that he wrote a strip.
What?
James, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for DC Comics Pride 2022, it's a one shot that they put out every year to kind of highlight the LGBTQIA plus community and the characters within the comic books. And so they had Kevin write a story about, it was called Becoming Batman. And it's about how he lived his life. He, people weren't always kind to him because of his lifestyle, but he embraced that pain, the fact that he had to hide parts of himself to become Batman. And it's if you get a chance to read the story, it's heartbreaking and lovely and happy all at once. And he posthumously won an Eisner Award, which is the highest award you can get in comic books for his story. I'm tearing up just thinking about it, but yeah, if you get the chance to look it up, they usually, if you just Google Kevin Conroy Eisner Award, you'll see at least some of the panels. I think not all the story in total, but it's absolutely amazing, and I'm so happy that he won that. I was pulling for him at the Eisner Awards that he would get it, and he did posthumously, but it's brilliant.
And Kevin, when he went outed or came out, whichever, the response from the fans was so loving and embracing and understanding and surprised. But I was kind of nervous that there would be all this negativity, and there was none. And it made me cry because it didn't matter to the fans. Yeah, Kevin was Batman, straight, gay, like it didn't matter. They loved him. And, it's not like Kevin was closeted. We knew he was gay. We knew his husband, but of course, many fans didn't know. And when he wrote that story, that one-off, I just thought, what a gift that is, because how many lives will be changed from this piece of work that Kevin did? And he put his whole heart and soul into it. And so the fact that he was awarded for it is just, it's so special, so special.
And as we wrap this up here, I just sincerely want to thank all six of you for taking the time out on a Tuesday here to stop what you're doing and honor this incredible man who is, again, always will be our Batman, both obviously yours as a teammate, but ours, the world, as for generations of fans, is our Batman. So Carl Lumbly, George Newbern, Phil LaMarr, Dan Riba, Marie Canals-Barrera, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thanks for having us.
It's been wonderful.
And thank you for doing this.
Yeah,
yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. You know how I feel about you. I've said it many times. I appreciate it. And, our story continues, I hope.
Yes. We love you too, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye. See you soon.
Wow. Full house today. That just, so much love. I feel I'm brimming.
Yeah, it was great Hera. That's all I'm going to say. It's, no, I'm going to say more than that. It was special. I mean, so special. And it really speaks to how extraordinary Kevin was, and is. And I loved that we had everyone talking about him and sharing the love about him and the stories. And he felt here. Like I felt him here with us, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I think it was wonderful. And I know we didn't quite have everybody. Michael had couldn't make it. He tried to make it work with his schedule. We think he might try to jump in at some point. But in forethought, Michael did send us some thoughts to share about Kevin.
Hey guys, it's Michael Rosenbaum. The Flash. Hey, Supergirl. Wait, there's no Supergirl in this. Hey, Soups. I don't know where I'm going with this. Hey, sorry I couldn't make it today, but I love you dearly, and this show should have new life, and we should all be recording episodes. What's wrong with the world? But this isn't about that. This is about our beautiful, enormously talented friend, Kevin Conroy. And I just want to say the one thing that resonates with me is I was in Ireland and I was signing autographs at a convention, and so was Kevin. He was standing right next to me signing, and his line was wrapped around the whole convention. I had like 20 people, but still, it didn't matter. It's not about me. But what I noticed is I looked over at Kevin one time, and this girl was crying, telling him how much he meant to her and her family, and how they, her and her father watched all of his work, and she was in tears, and I guess her father had passed. And I just remember looking at Kevin, and it wasn't like, where you're just being nice and, okay, let's just talk to this person for a second, go to the next person. This was not, he was so engaged. His eyes filled with tears. He held her hand. He took however much time she wanted with him. And it practically put me in tears. I just was so floored. And it wasn't just that one girl. Everyone who passed through his line, he took the time to say thanks and to hear their story. And I learned a lot from him. Because without our fans, without the listeners, without, we're nothing. And I knew that, but when I saw his sincerity, and it just floored me, and I loved him, and I loved hearing him just joke with me and come over to my table and go, "Michael, how are you? Are you having a good day?" And we'd sit and we'd have lunch, and I had dinner with him a few times, and he loved you all, and he loved that Andrea Romano. We all do, and we all loved him, and that's all I could say. I can go on about his enormous talent, but you're probably doing that. I love you all dearly, and I want to work with you again because we had something special, and I miss Kevin, and I miss you, and goodbye.
There you go. I was wondering about putting that in sometime when they were mentioning about some of the convention stuff, but I was like, you know what? Let's let Michael have his own moment here at the end. So thank you. If you're listening, Michael Rosenbaum, thank you for sending that. It was very lovely.
It was so sweet. And, he really did try. He loves being with all of us together. He couldn't make it work with his schedule. So he sent that, and it's so heartfelt. And thank you, Michael, for being a part of this, even if it's just on an MP3.
But it was great to have Dan there as well.
Dan.
Just so knowledgeable, so nice, just an amazing human being. Just all of you. You're all so wonderful, just amazing people. I love that we got to do this today with all of you, and that I love that you can sense the friendship and camaraderie between the group. It's just, I keep saying lovely a lot. Like I said, amazing a few episodes back, but lovely is the word for this episode, folks. Write it down.
Yeah, it's a good group. And like I say, we enjoy being together. And I think that, when we are together, it feels special. It's not like we're hanging out all the time together, but we see each other at the cons. And especially George and Maria and I, we do so much together. And hopefully we'll get Carl to do more of them coming up. But yeah, when I put it out there to them to be on the show, there wasn't even any hesitation. You and I had talked about this and doing an episode just as a tribute to Kevin. And we knew we were going to do it. And I'm glad we did it. And I'm glad we did it now. And that was just a very special, meaningful conversation and tribute to him.
Yeah. And like you said during the show, we didn't want to start off the podcast with it because we did address the elephant in the room that we wouldn't have Kevin for this as we went forward. But I kind of like that we're starting season 2 with this. Mm-hmm. And it's certainly been an episode the fans have been asking about. It's like, hey, are you guys going to do a Kevin tribute episode? And, we knew we were going to do this from the beginning. It's just a matter of when to do it, how to do it, and with who. And I think, just me personally speaking, I think we knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, it was good. And I was very aware of you as we were talking because you're such a fan of his. And I remember talking to you after Kevin had passed, and I remember how emotional you were. And I know you met him and you interviewed him, and you were there with me at the memorial because I knew how much you loved him. And so when I was given my +1, you know, you were the guy that I wanted to bring to it. So yeah, it was just very. I'm glad you were here with me. I'm glad we did it together, and it was. I'm a little verklempt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it just makes me miss him, and yet I'm so thrilled and overjoyed that we were able to remember him as we did, and I think the fans will really appreciate hearing people's memories and hearing all the Kevin love because. Yeah. Boy, is there a lot of Kevin love.
There is. He's going to be one of those people who, I mean, I see people post on his birthday last year in November. Yep. People posted, you know, this is our Batman, remembering the best Batman ever. Like you said, I was very flattered that you brought me to the memorial and that, you know, I had him on my radio show, I think 4 times total. And I met him that last time that in Terrificon, right before he passed, the July before he passed. And even though he was probably in a great deal of pain and not feeling well, he was there for the fans, and the fans got that moment with Kevin. And just, I can't even tell you how much he meant to me. And I think I'm not alone. there
yeah,
so
no,
you're
not. You're not. And I just, you know, you were such a sweetheart. You were the host really of the show. And I kind of sat back on this episode and allowed myself to just be a guest and let you do what you do so brilliantly. But I was very aware as we were all talking that you had your own thoughts and feelings that are considerable about this man who affected your life, you know, deeply. So I just love that you were part of it. That's all. And, you know, and I'm excited to start season 2. You know, we wanted the books, 1 season in the books, and the second one is about to happen. So let's go, you know, as Kevin would do. Yes. And let's keep going.
Absolutely.
The conversation continues in a real way.
Yeah. Season 2. And like I said, that's why we wanted to start this season with the Kevin, because as I was going through the list of episodes, there are so many episodes. I was like, I wish we could have Kevin's thoughts on this, or boy, what was he thinking on this? So this is our way of remembering Kevin, our special tribute to Kevin. As we go forward, he's like, I can't remember as George said, but he's with us. He's, as we're doing this, you can feel it. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, that'll do it for us. You can find the website, the podcast online. Just if this is your first episode, welcome. Otherwise, you've got a whole season to go back and listen to, and hopefully you've enjoyed what you have heard up until this point.
Yes, and if you are enjoying it, please subscribe and leave a review for the podcast, because that really does help us. And you know, we're loving doing it, and we want to keep doing it. And you know, the feedback is always welcome. We read all the reviews, and we love hearing from you, whether it's on social media or on the podcast platform itself. I read everything, so be kind, but tell us what you think, and please leave reviews, because it really matters. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the first season. And like James said, if you're new, welcome, and sit back, enjoy, because the second season is going to be dynamite. Okay, so stay tuned, because the conversation will definitely continue.